A really wise communication expert once said that when you add a drop of red dye to a glass of water, you don't have a glass of water plus red dye. That drop changes every molecule in the water. So whether you're with us or a competitor, whoever you're with, get online, get those virtual services, get comfortable with it. It's normal to be afraid, normal to be kind of concerned, and normal to educate yourself first before you dive in, but do it. Us, them, it doesn't matter. Just, start to make friends with that technology. Start to get closer to it, because it is not just, it's not a glass of water with a drop of red dye anymore. Everything has changed.
Hello, and welcome back to the 2020 podcast, bringing clarity to business, entrepreneurship, and life. I am your host, Dr. Harbir Sayan. It has been a minute, guys. I took a little bit of time away after celebrating the first anniversary of the podcast. Wanted to take a step back and reset and get some new content. I have a bunch of new interviews with amazing new guests that I'm so excited to bring to you. And if you are new here, let me just say, first of all, please do subscribe on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, and follow along on Spotify if you prefer that channel. I want to thank everybody for the support in the first year, and especially at the end of the first year with that big contest that we held, all the amazing reviews that came in. I really, really appreciate that. Now, I want to kick off the second year with a bang, and I have a fantastic interview here to start things off with two amazing guests. The first of whom is Sheila Sanaz Bissonnette, who is the CEO, chair, and founder of Lensbox, which is an amazing new virtual platform, digital platform for ECPs to help ECPs connect better with their customer and their client and their patient. Previously, she was executive global director for Essilor Group and also CEO of CPRO, which is an industry coalition which addressed the challenges that were presented during deregulation here in BC. And if you heard me talk about this, we would have been through some big time deregulation here in British Columbia. And so Sanaz has been really well planted in the eye care industry and a lot of the different challenges that the eye care industry has gone through over the past decade or so. The second guest is actually a return guest. It's Dr. Pavan Avinashi, who is a very successful entrepreneur and optometrist here in the Vancouver area. He is the CEO and owner of Hollyburn Eye Clinic, which is a big, beautiful group practice in North Vancouver. He's also a very well-regarded, highly regarded speaker in all across North America. He speaks on different topics, dry eye and other specialties. So it's amazing to have his insight on these different topics that we touched on. We touched on a lot of different topics, guys. And this is why I think this is starting off this year with a bang. We touched on some very relevant topics like disruption in our industry, e-commerce, telehealth, but also really important conversations like diversity and gender bias and topics like that. And no better people than these two to really give us some amazing insights. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you love it. And if you do, please, again, leave a review and don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you again next week with another amazing interview with another amazing guest. Thanks so much, guys. All right, so here we are. I'm excited. It's been a long time since I've had a podcast, guys. I actually took a month and a half off from recording or posting podcasts. So we're coming back. This is the first podcast of year 2 of the podcast. You guys have some pretty big expectations to live up to since I'm starting year 2 with you, but I know you're going to live up to them, of course. Why don't we start with, I did a little intro, everybody's heard already, but why don't you guys give me a little bit of an intro about yourselves and what you do, what you have done in the past. And we'll start with Sanaz, ladies first.
Thank you. A little background about me. I came into the industry about 9 years ago, actually. Like complete accident, I went in to get my prescription to go buy glasses online. And lo and behold, I ended up meeting my first optometrist ever in my life, who was really upset that I was going to go and buy my glasses off, what was at that time Coastal Contacts. So that was my first.
How dare you? Sorry.
How dare
That's what I would have said.
She was a lot harsher than that, but yeah. It definitely, evoked my curiosity. I started to dig, and my first meeting with the industry was actually with the late great Dr. Francis Jean,
Mm.
the founder of Iris, the visual group. And he told me that first thing he said to me was, "You'll come into this industry, and young lady, you'll never leave." And I laughed. And I thought that was a really weird thing for him to say to me, but lo and behold, here we are. From there, I just kind of got involved with the Canadian Coalition of Eye Care Professionals, which was this joint effort on the industry side to fight deregulation in BC, which came as a result of that particular company that I was going to buy glasses off of, lobbying the government and some stuff that went on there, and ended up being the CEO of Canadian Coalition of Eye Care Professionals. From there, I got recruited by Essilor as a global executive. Left Essilor in 2018 and started Lensbox, and I've been the happy chair and CEO of Lensbox since.
That's great. It's a great backstory, and you've obviously been involved in the industry for quite a while now, and have definitely got your feet wet is definitely an understatement. But it's going to be exciting to talk a little bit more about exactly what you've built with Lensbox in a few minutes. But before we do that, Dr. Pavan Avinashi, it's nice to have you back on the podcast. It's been a little while. You're one of my very first guests. I think maybe second or third episode or something like that. Yeah.
Number 3.
Yeah, it was amazing. And people love that podcast because we talked a lot about building a business and networking and the importance of relationships, which is so relevant. So tell us a little bit again about who you are, what you do for work, your practice, and all that type of stuff.
Well, I suggest your viewers watch episode number 3 of the 2020 podcast. If you want to learn more about me. And after Sanaz's intro, I'm but a simple optometrist, my friend. But happy in what I do and love every day of it. No, I've been practicing for 17 years now. I graduated from Chicago, born and raised in Saskatchewan, moved to Vancouver, and have had owned my own practices for 16 years. I've had my hands in, I think, 6 or 7 different practices as an owner, but sold some, merged some, closed some, and now I just have a group practice in North Vancouver at the moment. So that's what I do. I've been involved in the industry in a variety of capacities, whether it's through association endeavors, committee lead or member, advocacy, association stuff like that, conferences, lecturing, KOLs, PDCs, you name it. I've kind of put my foot in the door and tried to give back to the profession that's given so much to me. And it's been amazing to see the profession grow and to see innovators like Sanaz come out and now band with her and what we can possibly do for our profession and for our colleagues across the country.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely a wealth of experience that you have, of course, in the industry in all those different capacities. So really cool to be able to chat with you again and get your expertise and your experience now on this new endeavor, this new journey that the entire profession, the entire industry is on now, which is in e-commerce and virtual consultations, telehealth, and all these types of things. The word that comes to mind when we talk about, or at least have been talking about these things over the past whatever decade, since coastal contacts and the like, is disruption. And our industry, like so many other industries, truly though, has faced a wave of disruption, right? Endless wave. It seems like one barrage after the next of disruption. And someone like myself really, I feel like would say, well, the word disruption is just like a negative word, right? What else am I going to think of when I think of disruption except bad stuff? You're here to ruin my comfortable office and clinic and my full schedule of patients and drag them off and make them buy stuff online. So tell me, that's my definition of disruption. I'm just kidding. Tell me, Sanaz, what's your definition of disruption, and how do you actually see disruption in any specific industry or eye care, let's say?
I think part of the story that I was sharing was actually my initial walk into the industry. I was a student at Simon Fraser University. I was just starting my master's in disruptive technology and how disruptive technology changes healthcare environments. A really wise communication expert once said that when you add a drop of red dye to a glass of water, you don't have a glass of water plus red dye. That drop changes every molecule in the water. So disruption, how do I define disruption? I mean, I also note that the way that we run our lives is the way we run our business. So if you're a person in your life where you're comfortable with, you want to keep everything the same all the time, and you see disruption or change as a negative thing, you'll look at it the same way in business. And I feel like anything that can't be challenged eventually becomes corrupt. So I'm happy that our industry is being challenged. And I know that we're going to build something. We're going to put our heart and soul into it. And 7 years from now, somebody's going to be sitting in front of a different camera challenging us. But that's a beautiful thing. I think in our own lives, I mean, it's kind of a philosophical question, but for me, every time my life's gotten shaken up, disturbed, disrupted, it's painful in the moment. So we have to acknowledge the fact that when people react a certain way to us and they get fearful or they get concerned, this is a really normal response to have when someone's moving your cheese. Because that's certainly my response, my first response in my life when I get disrupted. But I've always come out a better person. My character has gotten refined. I've become a stronger person, a more resilient person. And I think that if you have a business model that is built on great relationships, you're an ethical person, you're doing the right things, you're doing good things, disruption is only going to help you because you are going to become a better person, make a better business because of it. So it's normal to be fearful. I don't like disruption for the sake of disruption. And I think some people just enjoy making problems or creating disruption. We're not that kind of disruptor. We really believe what we're doing is coming out of a good place. It's going to help people. It's going to help patients. It's going to help doctors. We're doing something good. So I welcome that kind of disruption.
Yeah, I like that. Moving your cheese, is that a thing? I don't think I've ever heard moving your cheese.
Yeah. There's actually a really interesting book. There are two books. One is an older book called The Innovator's Dilemma, or something like that. And then there's one that's called Who Moved My Cheese? And it's really about how people get disrupted. And so we can have a visceral reaction to change. And I expect that sometimes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Pavan, please.
Can I stop at giving answers after her answers?
Yeah, I know.
Can I go first?
You know what you can do is
better?
You can jump in whenever you like. First of all, I should have told you that before we even came on live here. But don't worry. I'll alternate the way I ask these questions. I'll let you go first once in a while.
No, I'm playing. Sanaz is so well spoken, and she's kind of nailed it right on the head there. What is disruption? What is industry disruption? It's a process whereby smaller companies with a fewer amount of resources are able to successfully challenge the status quo or the incumbent businesses. That's essentially what we are. Without disruption, there's minimal progression. Things don't advance. Things don't change. We don't get to where we're at right now. And like she talked about, it's just innovators. It's practices. Some people can just be happy with the status quo and just go with what they know, and they'll be fine. They'll survive. They'll do great. But it's the ones that are willing to accept the change, accept to embrace the challenges or the advancements in anything, whether it's technical, whether it's science, whether it's protocols. I think that's what we need in our industry, and not just in the medical industry, but in any type of platform that we have, whether it's political, whether it's science-based, whether it's anything. I think even just the way we live our lifestyle, I think we get too conditioned and get stuck in our way. It's human nature to be complacent, to be happy. And it's not a bad thing, but at the same time, for us to advance and to be able to make things more efficient. And now in this industry, and what we're trying to do with this disruption is to get something that's easier for the doctors, something that's better for the patients or the public as a whole, and to make our profession more relevant as times are changing and things are becoming more digitized.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think that does, both of you, of course, spoke well to disruption there. And I think just based on the experiences that we've had, kind of the big hits that the industry has taken and other industries have taken from online, companies and players like that, it's easy to think negatively of disruption, but disruption is just another way for us to evolve and grow if we adapt, the way you guys have spoken to it. And so we've already, alluded to the company Lensbox, and Lensbox is this small company that's using its resources in a way to help change a profession for better, which is a form of disruption. So let's talk a little bit about Lensbox and what it does and where it fits in the industry. Pavan, I'll let you go first this time.
This is the one you were supposed to ask her first.
Oh, you're right. You know what?
The brainchild of this.
That's true. That's actually a very good point. Thank you. Let's take that back. Sanaz, I'm going to let you have this one first again.
Sure. I mean, I always remember being in those sort of big global executive meetings, when the big multinational acquired the local online contact lens company. And I remember this pain point because optometrists who were at the table, and I'd had lots of experience by that point, those who were speaking, whether it was the association heads or just independent optometrists or some of the bigger groups, were saying to me, if we're going to skip the eye exam and we're going to skip the prescription and we're going to just keep putting contact lenses in people's hands, we are putting their eye health and well-being at risk. So it wasn't, and it wasn't just sort of a feel good sort of thing. It really was, they were concerned. I mean, at least probably both of you can think of one example where somebody had a brain tumor or some sort of, health concern or health issue. And you saw that through examining their eyes. So I think for me, even being in that global position, I was very outspoken about the fact that my plan is to go and start Lensbox and do it in partnership with optometrists. So the first piece was to build that e-commerce experience, make sure that doctors can use a really beautiful community store. We're going to keep adding products to it. We're going to just keep making it bigger and better, where doctors can just refer their patients. They can get the profit and the benefit of being part of this group and being part of that community shop. And they're going to get lots of marketing and IT support. So it was first that big brand experience for the patient through their doctor. This is all about the doctor feeling good and feeling supported to give the best service to their patient. Second part of that is telehealth. I mean, I think that COVID-19 has really woken up a lot of people to the reality of the future. A lot of healthcare is going to be virtual. And we wanted to build a platform that was compliant, that it was secure, that gave optometrists, again, something to be proud of, something that they felt good jumping on a telemedicine call or a telehealth call, consulting call with their patient, and live being able to put products into their cart, being able to drop a prescription into the back end. I mean, our platform does it all, and it does it in a really easy and intuitive way. And so I think just those two pieces probably would have been great. But I think that you're being really humble, Pavan, because don't call me the brainchild. We're here because our doctors of optometry, our team is really great at pushing us that next level. So same day delivery to your home, setting up subscription services. We just added Sezzle, where you can pay for your product. You can get your glasses, contact lenses, dry eye products, everything in one box. Every 90 days, you can break up those payments if you're having trouble paying for things because of COVID. So our incredible team of doctors keep pushing us to do more all the time, be more innovative, add more value. So that's my thought on that. It's not just my brainchild.
Well, fair enough. And obviously Pavan has been heavily involved. And of course, doctors like myself are very involved in creating the experience that we feel like that optometrists and ECPs, eye care providers in general, would appreciate and feel comfortable with, and not just look at this technology as just some disruption that we have to kind of like try to hold on to as it tears through the profession. This is like everybody on board, let's do this together kind of feeling. Definitely a different type of online virtual experience than what we've seen. And so Pavan, tell us, I know you've been as Sanaz said, involved right from the beginning. So tell us what it's been for you, what you see Lensbox as for optometrists, from an optometrist perspective.
Right. And just to carry on what Sanaz was saying, that, the silver lining, and we've all heard this before, the silver lining to what the lockdown and COVID and this quarantine and this global pandemic has done for us is forced us to be more efficient. Forced us to relook at efficiencies of our business, being more creative, and looking at adopting technology, whether it's on the concept of, you're staying at home. So how do we procure things that we need? How do we communicate better with other people? Even as a team leader, how do I get my staff to do better things? And we're using digitalized platforms to do all of this now. So it's not that telemedicine is a novel concept. It's not that e-commerce is a novel concept. I was looking at e-commerce options 7 to 8 years ago for my business. There was cost barriers. There was knowledge barriers. You needed to hire a very subspecialized person to do it. Now you don't need to do that as much because there's so many outfits or platforms that you can onboard with that'll take care of everything for you. you know better than I do. You own practices too. We were never trained in our medical training and optometry training. We weren't trained to be business people. Leave alone IT people. We don't have that expertise. You do. I don't. I know RB is very good at this type of stuff, but the vast majority of optometrists don't. So these are foreign territories for on board, and that's why every optometrist is kind of hesitant, kind of thinking, yeah, I get e-commerce is a good thing, but I don't want to dish out the money, and I don't know how important it is. Yeah, I know, but these are the same people that are going home and buying their groceries online, buying their clothes online, but they're scared to offer their patient base or their clientele base a digitalized e-commerce platform. And then you got the telemedicine. Yeah, we've known about it, but why do I need to? I see enough patients in my practice. My patients don't want to call in and see me. Well, we've just had an eye-awakening experience where now medicine it's been on a fast track to this. Now, my dad's a physician, and he's been for 40 years. He sits at home, does telemedicine 80% of his patient care now. That's just how it is. Here in BC now, it's a big part of my daily practice. A good portion of my patients a day are via telemedicine. It's more efficient for both the patient base. It's also more efficient for the practice, and it's healthier, and it's obviously safer in this type of certain global environment that we're in right now. So as you can see, or as you may know, there's been various platforms in the telemed avenue and the e-commerce that have come to market, and sure enough, there's a need. So there's a solution coming up, but nobody's combined them as far as we know. We're one of the first in Canada combining both of those, along with many other layers to it that are. She's just giving you a tease on some of the stuff that's in the pipeline. But the beauty of this is we're creating something that is a global solution, an industry solution that caters to not only the needs of the eye care provider, but also the patient or the consumer as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're right, Sanaz, I felt like you only sort of hit the tip of the iceberg. You hit the two big things, right, that are going to be applicable or kind of are on people's minds, like e-commerce and telehealth. But there are other partnerships kind of below the surface that I think are going to be super exciting for people to know about and kind of explain how important this platform will be for optometrists. All of these partnerships that can be leveraged by every individual optometrist, partnerships that we can't as individuals create and leverage on our own. I'd love for you to touch a little bit on some of those partnerships that you think would be relevant to ECPs.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about solving those complexities that are in the industry right now. I find that there's a lot of going around point A, B, C, D, E to get back to point B. So, I think centralizing distribution, we've just signed on with a collaboration that's going to make it easier for certain clinics in Canada to be able to get everything, all their contact lenses from the same distributor on Annacis Island, and for them to be able to ship that product out same day. We're using Trexity, our same day delivery system. So that's one efficiency that we're going to solve with this collaboration. We're super excited about it. We sent out a news release over the weekend. Another big announcement coming down the pipeline is we're partnering with a pharmacy, and they're going to be solving a lot of inefficiencies using our platform. Their doctors will be using our telehealth platform, and our doctors will be on the same platform using the pharmacy. And again, this is a very forward-thinking pharmacy and a big group of really innovative thinkers, kind of, in our own sort of like-minded people who are kind of thinking, okay, how do we make this experience better? So when we talk about our subscription boxes, one thing that we're going to be doing is sending that box out. Imagine that you're getting your contact lenses, dry eye products, and now with this pharmacy partnership, your medication. And it's your doctor of optometry that's making the prescription, live with you and renewing your prescription, working with the pharmacy directly. So it's actually really funny when we were talking about disruption. I was talking to the CEO of this company that we're partnering with, the pharmacy, and he said, I said, well, what is the best way to get the prescription over to you from our doctors? And he said, you can fax it. And we burst out laughing, right? Both of us were like, what is fax? So, I know that we're kind of we're running fast, we're doing a lot, and we're kind of ahead of the game. It's a lot for us to process too on a daily basis. But I think the reason why I want to give the credit back to our team is, I get these calls from Pavan sort of late in the evening, him saying, well, what if and every time a conversation starts like that, I'm like, oh no, This is going to make things a lot better for the doctors and the patients, but we got some work to do. But it's work that we welcome, and we're really excited, especially just being able to, open up this channel with the pharmacy and a patient being able to get it all in one place from a doctor. Super exciting.
How cool is that? That's a partnership that I never would have thought about, like to be connected to a pharmacy so things can be delivered, more directly and more efficiently to the patients. Because the old model, again, is something we've gotten used to, but it's definitely inefficient. And the idea of same day delivery, okay, the only place I know same day delivery comes is Amazon, right? And everything, I look at same day or next day and I always just think of Amazon, but to get your contact lenses the same day, definitely would be a game changer for a lot of people. I mean, how many times do people walk into the office like, I need my contacts today, I'm out, I need to go to this thing. But like, you get them the same day. That's pretty incredible. And that's through your doctor, right? If I can clarify that's not just through some online platform, that's through your optometrist. So for the optometrists who are listening, your patients are getting those lenses through you, but they're getting them the same day. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Every order that we process has a prescription attached to it. If you're a doctor who's part of our network, you're using our platform, great. We verified that prescription with you. Often we will get orders from doctors from the big groups. And so we reach out to those doctors, introduce ourselves, and verify that prescription as well. We don't sell product without a valid prescription.
Gotcha. I want to, Pavan, you talked a little bit about e-commerce a little bit. Obviously, this whole conversation really is revolving around e-commerce, but tell me about how, you've implemented e-com into your business, since March this year, or even if you've had it before, but how it's changed since March and how much you've been leaning on that and how it's helped in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I was mentioning earlier, I think we looked at e-commerce options years ago, and we never pulled the plug. When Sanaz and I first chatted, I think it was close to 2 years ago now, and we sat down. I remember a table at a sushi restaurant, and she was like, "Guys, this is what I'm doing. I think this can be awesome for optometry. What do you think?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's relevant. I think it has potential." Well, fast forward a catalyst like a global pandemic, and all of a sudden I'm calling her. I'm like, Sanaz, I needed it yesterday. Let's do this. And she's like, all right, let's create, let's build, and let's adapt. And that's something she's amazing at. She's just very adaptable and just open to a lot of ideas and good at making them happen. So we worked together and we kind of created an easy to do turnkey white label operation e-commerce site for optometry. This was at a time where people were scrambling. They were closing the doors, they were laying off, they're furloughing their staff. They had no source of income, no way to service their patients, and they knew their patients are going to flock to established entities like, Coastal or other big online companies that have e-commerce platforms, just well established. So it was something that we did too. We adapted, we created, we built, and we started implementing. We started promoting it, and it started becoming a very important part of our practice during our 9 weeks of full lockdown. And eventually, as we opened up, it still became a new part of our practice. This is the new normal. Yes, our sales are not nearly as big as they were during the close down, but it's an option. We wanted to be relevant during the close down. We still want to be relevant now. The way we are buying is so different. Every consumer is buying very different in Canada, North America, globally, and with a stage. Our mindset is different. Our comfort level to go and put a credit card online or purchase something that our needs are is there. Why can't we be that provider to our patients? We are their eye care provider. Why do they have to go elsewhere to look for products that their doctors are recommending? So now, with this type of platform like Lensbox, not only can they get their contact lenses through us with an instance, they can get their pharmaceutical agents, therapeutic agents, whether it's for an allergy, anti-allergy medication, anti-inflammatory, their dry products, or immunomodulator drops for long-term ocular surface inflammation. Why can't they get them through us in a one-stop shop and get it all taken care of at no additional cost? I mean, you're not paying anything extra. Or if it's glasses, why can't we deliver a pair of glasses that to them from their eye doctor at the same competitive prices that they would get anywhere else online, but at a fraction of the time, and supported and delivered through their eye care doctor?
Yeah.
And now they can.
Now they can. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's huge. Obviously, as we've already talked about, the pandemic, COVID was a big eye opener. It was a wake up call for so many people. But there's still, I think, even with a pandemic, there's like a fear or like a hesitancy around getting online. I don't know if it's like a fear of the unknown, or I don't know if a fear of like becoming one of them. I don't know what it might be, but to have a platform that kind of encompasses all these different things and allows ECPs to provide these services, I think will be really beneficial in the long term, pandemic or not, right? Because that's just the trajectory is that way, anyways. I want to change gears a little bit. Do you have something else you want to say first, Sanaz?
I do want to add a little something here that, often we'll get, and I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Pavan, but, we've set up these independent e-commerce stores and we get these calls now, like from those days that we were sort of building those stores, we get these calls, people who have had their stores up and running and not getting a lot of transactions through, whether they're with us or with a competitor's platform, it's just not happening. And part of that is the fact that people are going in for that care, etc. But the other part is you do need IT and marketing support ongoing. And I think this is the big story behind Lensbox, is that we want to build that brand familiarity with the patient. Every Starbucks you go into always looks the same. We want to have that experience with Lensbox and build that big brand and marketing. So I think that's one piece. The other part is to speak to your point about people still being kind of standoffish about it. People will call us and say, I've had your competitor's platform for like X number of months. I'm getting no transactions. I feel really bad, but I want to switch, or I want to stay with them. What are your thoughts? And I just think it's great. Like, if whether you're with us or a competitor, whoever you're with, get online, get those virtual services, get comfortable with it. It's normal to be afraid, normal to be kind of concerned, and normal to educate yourself first before you dive in, but do it. Us, them, it doesn't matter. Just, start to make friends with that technology, start to get closer to it, because it is not just, it's not a glass of water with a drop of red dye anymore. Everything has changed. And so if you're evolving, that's wonderful. If you're growing, that's wonderful. Use our platform, their platform. Awesome. You're starting to create a new habit and a new revenue stream. We're happy for you.
That's excellent. Well, I always like the saying, "A rising tide lifts all boats." So, right, I think if we're encouraging ECPs as a whole to get on board and just start to get better, it will make the entire profession better, and it'll help us adapt to this big change and protect us against those negative disruptors that don't look to actually improve the profession, just to disrupt for disruption's sake. So that's awesome. So I did want to, as I was saying, change the topic a little bit, actually a lot. I've had a few guests on the podcast, women specifically, who have done really amazing things, whether it's in business or in sports or whatever realm they're in. And I find it's very important for us to discuss, their path, their journey, and some of the resistance that they may have faced along the way. So, Sanaz, of course, the next couple of questions will be directed a little bit more at you here, but the conversation around gender bias and diversity in the workplace is huge, especially now more than ever. I want to know a little bit more about, what your experience has been as, at very high levels in different companies, like global executive director, Essilor Group, working in that kind of position, pros and cons, if you will, share some stories, kind of both good and bad, what you might have gone through and what's brought you to here where you are now.
Yeah, that's a very personal way of looking at things for me, looking back through these years and looking at the experiences I've had. I'm very cautious to villainize a gender or, anyone who I would sort of pinpoint as having given me, it caused me any kind of difficulty, suffering, holding me back, anything like that. But the truth is, it's twofold. One is that there are incredible men in this industry, incredible people with a tremendous amount of power who have supported me, who have given me a lot of open doors for me because I couldn't. And I keep thinking about this combo of Joe Biden and Kamala. I'm just thinking about, I was so excited about those election results and the way the world is changing, and
I'm the Kamal.
You're the Kamala.
Yeah,
he's. I suppose that kind of makes sense.
Yes, exactly. No, and I just don't want to villainize in any way. I want to say that there have been men like that, those typical sort of stereotypes that you would think like, they would have been holding me back. No, They actually opened doors for me, supported me, mentored me, and that's why I am here. That's part of why I'm here. That there's always been the villains, the real villains too, people who were, who didn't behave in the most ethical way, who did use their power to hold me back or make me or other colleagues who are female very, very uncomfortable. Those are real experiences. And, I've had that lived experience. So one thing that was critical for me at Lensbox is from the ground up to set things up so that we are starting on the foot of saying that we should be having, women in executive roles making decisions actually at every level of the organization. But that's a big thing for us. And we see the tide changing. We see that, we've got the first woman in the White House now as vice president. It's again one of those disruptions. I think sometimes it's hard for people. Sometimes I still get treated like the little sister or I'm still judged based on my looks as opposed to what I've accomplished and what I set out to accomplish. But again, going back to that topic of having had a lot of support, a lot of people behind me. I mean, our entire team is a mix of diversified, backgrounds. And I love that about our organization. It's something I'm super passionate about. But all the gentlemen in our organizations support those women to rise to those heights as well. And Pavan is, definitely one of those people. And I know you're joking to say that you're Kamal, but I just love the way that this team works together. It's really important to me. It's important for me that women feel safe in the workplace. Again, lived experience. I didn't always feel that. And I'll ask you this, Javier. I'll turn the table on you because I have a daughter, and so it's really important to me. I have a daughter and a son. It's important for me that my son, and Pavan, you can speak to this. You have two sons. We're raising men who are respectful, who love the women in their lives and can support them, can report to them, can, see women and respect them for who they are. And I'm raising a daughter and I want her to go into a world. And again, this is about legacy and what we leave behind. It's not about a bunch of like corporate jargon. Someday we're all going to be gone and our children and their children are going to be running the world. So for me, it's really important to build a company and live an example who empowers women. You guys can speak to that as parents. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, I'll say, I have two little girls, and so my perspective, has definitely changed. There's no like trying to pretend, as much as I've always personally been for equality and respected women. There's nothing like having a daughter to really, really make you see things, a little bit differently. And I've been extremely, extremely fortunate to have strong women around me, successful women around me, and extremely fortunate that my young daughters will have those same people to look up to. And we buy different books. There's a book that I love, and by the way, if anybody has young girls and they want them to see these stories of strong women, I think it's called like the Book of 5-Minute Stories About Amazing Girls or something like that, and it talks about like Michelle Obama and oh my gosh, so many different people, Missy Copeland, the ballerina, and all these cool people, cool women throughout history. So just really cool 5-minute stories. Viola Desmond, who's on the Canadian $10 bill and stuff like that. So anyway, something that's very commonly spoken in our household. And when I speak to people like yourself, Sammy Jo Small, who was a goaltender for the Canadian women's national team back in the early 2000s, I say thank you for paving the way, and so that when my girls grow up, they can see people like themselves, whether it's women, people of color, whoever, in those positions that they aspire to, reach. So thanks, Sanaz, for enduring and continuing to grow and building what you're building.
And it's true. I was born and raised in Saskatchewan. Back then, there was not a lot of colored people in the town. That too, my parents thought, let's challenge ourselves, put our kids into a French immersion school. And there was no diversity there at all. And they said, well, let's do it up one more. Let's go to a Catholic French immersion school. And sure enough, I went to a Catholic French immersion school in Saskatchewan. And, wow. I was born and raised not to look at anybody by the color of the skin, by the gender, their sexual orientation, or by their gender. And, I look at it now, and it's funny, I'd never thought of it until this very moment of now speaking, that the team that she has created here is so diverse in ethnicity, gender, and sexual orientation, which is, yeah, it's pretty impressive. But I don't think of it that way. The optics of how I've been trained and my cognitive ability to interact with people is not. I don't analyze that. Maybe I should more, but I just don't. And now that I am, I'm realizing that we've done a great job of that with the team at Lensbox.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Diversity is extremely important, and for so many different reasons. It's not just, oh, because it looks good. It's because, like, if you're not including a certain group of people in the conversation, you're missing out on all the potential talent and expertise and whatever they have. So it just makes good business sense ultimately too, if you want to look at it that way.
I want to comment on that because I think Pavan is really, thank you for sharing that story about your childhood. I'm also first generation. I ended up in Zanesville, Ohio. That was the first place that we landed fresh off the boat. And I was, people would actually tell me, like, they would go, "Oh, you're the first colored person." I was like, "I'm colored? I'm so confused." I didn't even understand the vernacular about it. I think that so much of that goes back to how you're raised. I was raised by these incredible men. My grandfather was a businessman. He owned, multiple chains of retail stores. And my uncles, one was like, again, business owner, politician, the other one as well, entrepreneur, very successful man. And I think they always earmarked me as like the oracle, the special one. My family loved me unconditionally. And these incredible men, if I was hanging out in the kitchen, they would come and like sweep me up and take me into the room where all the guys were sitting around smoking cigarettes and drinking and talking philosophy and business and politics. I was not allowed to hang out in the kitchen. And so I think so much of it is upbringing. And we really are so blessed to have the team that we have, because I think it's so interesting. I don't even think of those things, like you said, but I do live the experience of how that's changing our company, how it's creating, exploring, and also like expanding in different unique ways that from those lived experiences people bring from having a different sexual orientation or having a different experience as someone from a different ethnic background. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah,
it was true. Something we should celebrate for sure.
You
Absolutely.
should. Yeah.
Well, Sanaz, on that same topic then, what do you, if you could envision sort of a 10 years or 20 years or whatever from now where you think things have gone well in general across sort of, business or entrepreneurship in Canada, North America, across the world, what would you like to see as far as, women in business and diversity in business? Is there some kind of a vision that you have of where you'd look back when you're older and say, wow, things have really improved from when I was, younger?
I honestly think it's going to be a really deep answer to that question. I would really like to see, and I think this goes back to some of the other work that we're doing at Lensbox, I'd like to see support in place for men, because I feel like, again, that whole idea of villainizing men, every generation is not the same and every generation is getting better. But I don't always think that men have the support in place to be able to talk about these things and to be able to check themselves in certain places until it gets to be too late and they end up on a list or they end up being #MeToo. And so it's twofold. It's dealing with the problem at a root level, where people feel like they can exert their power on women, or they feel like it's okay for them to behave in a certain way. We need to put support into place. We need to help men, not shame them, but for them to feel like they have the support to do something different in their lives and to treat women a different way. Part of that is a mental health piece. I really do think that, because if you're in a good place and you're doing good in yourself and you're living well in your skin, you're not going to be a person who's going to want to offend or perpetrate on women in the workplace. So I think that's a huge piece. Mental health is significant, men, women, children, all around. But that's something that we're working on at the Lensbox Foundation. And then I would say, I really feel like one thing that was missing was I actually had no place to go to tell my story, to get the support that I needed, all the way top to bottom. Sometimes every time you came across someone to talk about what was happening, people would try to silence you. So I think if there was more support for women as well, to be able to talk about things without feeling like they are going to send someone, away for life, because often there's actually there's room for healing and restoration when something happens, an offense takes place. And I'm not talking about the horrendous stuff. I think sometimes people are just being silly or they do things that are not appropriate. Other times people are actually perpetrating. And so I think we need to have programs in place, people in place, and safety all around in the workplace where people can talk about these things and work through it. So I would love to see a Canada where we're talking about it more transparently, and we have more resources for men and women to deal with these issues.
That's a great answer, deep answer for sure. But I think an honest and very transparent answer, maybe an answer that not a lot of people will give because they'll just kind of sugarcoat or give that superficial kind of thing. So thank you for sharing that. In there, you touched very briefly on the Lensbox Foundation, and I did want to make sure we talked a little bit about that. So tell us, at whatever detail you're comfortable talking a bit about the Lensbox Foundation, what it's about and what you aspire for it to do.
I feel like I'm talking too much, but I think this is a piece that I'm really mostly proud of. Again, going back to our lived experience, my grandfather, when he died, over 3,000 people showed up to his memorial. A lot of them were girls, yeah, and he had been donating to this foundation who would send orphan girls to university. So I've got pretty big shoes to fill as far as charitable philanthropic work goes, but I kind of look at the moment and I always feel like you should just pick up something, do something in the moment, do something, and not just talk about it. What I see around me is a lot of frontline healthcare workers, a lot of optometrists, a lot of their staff dealing with a very anxious and uncertain situation without necessarily the support that they need day to day. So again, that mental health piece is huge. We're going to reveal some amazing partnerships coming up. We're putting resources into place for that. We don't ever want anyone to be sitting in a dark room day after day, feeling angst, suffering, and anxiety, and not having access to support. So that's one piece. The mental health piece is huge for us, and we want to make that available to optometrists and their staff on a day-to-day basis. Because I know, being where I am, that just being able to book an appointment and talk to somebody for 35 minutes can help me to uncork, unbox, whatever you want to say, unpack the things that are bothering me, and then I can go about my day. So that's the first one. Second one is obviously this piece about supporting women, especially girls in technology. There's a great program called Girls Learning Code, and we're looking at partnering with them. I don't know if you know about it. We're super excited because there is an eye care piece there. We've got girls sitting in front of computers coding all day. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to coding. I love it, and I know how to code at like an intermediate level, and I feel like that's a really great thing for girls to know how to do. But there we're looking at glasses and giving them eye protection while they're doing these hackathons. The third piece being, it's a bit controversial, but I'm just going to put it out there. Our industry creates a huge carbon footprint. It has huge environmental impact, and again, going back to the fact that 50 years from now, probably, I don't think any of us are going to be here unless we're cryogenically frozen. Pavan will still probably, he'll still be fresh.
Exactly the same. He won't have aged a day.
I don't know about that. Yeah. She can't even say that with a straight face. See?
Well, okay. But our children will be here and their children. So I feel like that's almost something we never talk about in our industry, whether that's waste from contact lens boxes or pouring water into, a village somewhere, one of our factories. I take full on ownership and responsibility for our industry's impact on the environment. And I think that until every single person in this industry does the same thing and feels like they're contributing to the problem, we're not going to see a lot of change about that. So something we're going to passionately talk about and start educating ourselves and others on, and hopefully making some small difference if we can.
Oh, that's incredible.
What's funny is I have to share this now. In all the time I've been working with Sanaz, and I've seen every aspect of her personality, and I've celebrated stuff with her. We've commiserated together, but in all anything that there's been accomplished as a team, whether it's a new partnership or a new platform or the new iOS update or or this or that, or this new idea that's come to fruition. The most excited she's ever been is when the foundation actually got designation. I remember her calling me that day. She was just over the moon. So you can see by her explanation, her passion to this, but it speaks to her that really this is something that it's more than, there's so many arms to this, and this is more than just creating something that's simple and easy and just one trick pony, let's say.
That's incredible, and definitely that excitement, that passion comes through even virtually. It's tangible, so that's amazing. And in fact, I was just listening to something today. There was just a phrase that the podcast host said, something about doing something to help someone else is the fastest way to kind of get into a flow state or get into a state of happiness. It's the easiest way to feel contentment and satisfaction, and definitely that's something that I've experienced as well. So the fact that you have that much going on, and the fact that you're that passionate about it is amazing, which means that you're more likely to continue doing it and growing it. So that's exciting. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure we are very clear about where people can go to learn more about Lensbox, whether that's patients or doctors. So whichever one of you wants to take the lead on this.
Harvey, what's your home address? Knock on his door. Doesn't matter what time it is night. His kids are asleep, and he'll answer.
You got it. You got it. Please come on by. Come on by. I'll sign you up. I'll just leave a pen and paper outside on the door, or you can fax me. Since we're talking about advancing technology.
Right.
I can hear the fax sound in my. Yeah.
But realistically, if they wanted to do it a little more quickly than personally showing up at my door, whoever wants to take this, please take it. Let me know where they can go.
I don't mind, Pavan. Do you want to take it? I don't mind.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
If you're a consumer and if you want to buy contact lenses, amazing glasses, eye care products, cosmetics that are great for your eyes, go to shoplensbox.com, put in an order, tell us who your doctor is. They'll get a little gift from us. We're trying to find our hometown heroes right now, these amazing doctors. Tell us about your amazing doctors. We'll give you a special discount, and we'll recognize that doctor and send them a special Lensbox gift, shoplensbox.com. If you're a practitioner, go to lensboxpro.com. You can learn all about what our platform offers. We have 2 types of membership right now. We're not charging for our subscription while the pandemic is upon us, and we're giving great discounts, so you can sign on, try the platform, tell us what you think. We're always trying to make things bigger and better and more efficient, so we'd love your feedback.
Great. Anything else, Pavan? Your personal email address, phone number? Obviously, I'm big on social media. You can also go to @shoplensbox on Instagram. And just check out the page there, or if that's where you live like me, just shoot a DM there, and someone will answer. It'll probably end up being me. Watch.
Listen, dude, I'm still on Hotmail. Don't look at me.
Yeah, I got razzed by someone recently for still having a Hotmail account, but that's where all my junk goes, so I still need it. Okay, so Pavan knows this because he's been on the podcast before, but I'm going to ask these same questions to you as well. Again, Pavan, I don't know if you remember the same answers you gave me before or not, but there's 2 answers I ask every guest on the podcast. Right. So I'll pose it to Sanaz first, and then Pavan, feel free to also answer. The first of the last 2 questions is, if we could step in a time machine and go back in time to a specific moment when you were struggling, you feel free to share that moment if you're comfortable sharing it. But more importantly, what advice would you give to younger Sanaz at that time?
Ooh, I did not get prepared for this question.
Nobody, well, only Pavan because he's had it before, but nobody gets prepared for the question.
Okay. So this goes to your comment when you said we're helping someone else, we get into the flow, etc. A moment that I would have been struggling with is making a transition from being a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling my children, going back to school to do my master's, starting a business, and really feeling like I was just inadequate sometimes, and going, what right or business do I have being here? I think those were some moments of self-doubt, and I have them on a daily basis. Sometimes I text Pavan or WhatsApp him, oh, I'm falling apart. He's laughing because he knows. And I'm just like, I'm hiding under the bed. And I have these moments still, so it's not that far in the past. And I think we all have them. Honestly, I think we all do. Yeah, this individual I was telling you about who told me today is like, just chill, don't worry about what other people are doing. The way people run their lives is how they run their business, and how they run their business is how they run their lives. And you just do your game kind of thing. I would go back and tell Sanaz, get out of your head, get into your heart and in your intuition. There you are the strongest, and there you know what you need to do next. And speak from your truth, your convictions. You can never go wrong. And I'm going to get emotional, but oh well. This company is built on love. I say that all the time. Everybody uses that now all the time in their meetings. It's built on love, and sometimes it's built on tough love, but it's love nonetheless. And so I think that our head can tell us stories about things and confuse us, and it's not always the best place to be. It's a great place for good ideas and making things work, but get into your heart, get into your intuition. In your gut, you know what's right, you know what's wrong, you know what you need to do next, and trust yourself. Like, there is that voice, that flow. You can call it the universe. I call it God. Listen, because it will guide you. And it's a limitless place. You're never cornered there, because you've got all the power in the world to do things differently than the way it's been done. So I would tell her that, because I think I suffered in isolation a lot and in self-doubt. And I don't really feel that very often anymore.
That's amazing.
It passes really quickly. Yeah, I recognize that I'm in my head. I get out of it. I get into my heart, and I'm good.
That's amazing. Out of your head, in your heart. I love it. I love it. Pavan, sorry to make you follow that again, but please.
I know.
Same question to you. You're in a time machine. You're going back to younger Pavan at a tough time. What advice do you have?
It's funny when you asked her this time again, I kind of tried to come in it with just a green mindset and just to think what comes off the top of my head. And I think what I'm going to say is exactly what I said to you on episode 3. Is episode 3? I made the top 5 list, guys. Blooper list, I think, probably. I would say, don't be scared to take chances. I think we all choose the path that's more comfortable, always. That's just human nature. And you can make mistakes, you can fail, but that's just going to make you better and stronger the next time around. You're going to be given so many more opportunities when you have that mindset. And like she said, follow your intuition. I mean, whether it's in my own practice, whether it's in my own personal life, or it's in my professional life, of course, or the way I manage staff, the way I buy capital equipment, the way I start businesses, or you just go with your intuition, but don't be scared to fail, because failure is not a bad thing. It just leads to a stepping stone to greater success in the future.
Yeah, perfect. Fail forward, if anything, right?
Okay.
Excuse me. Okay, the last question. Thank you for both those amazing answers, by the way, guys. The last question is, Sanaz, with everything that you've done up until now, all the amazing experience you have, and now building Lensbox, how much of what you've accomplished would you say is due to luck, and how much is due to hard work?
Wow. Oh, this is so philosophical. I feel like I need like a glass of wine to have this existential conversation with you. No, they're great questions. They're great questions. If anything, it just confirms why we love you.
Thank you.
Hold on, you love me more, though, right?
I love you both.
Okay.
Is it luck or hard work? I mean, I don't want to give a canned answer. Obviously, hard work, obviously, we all know hard work is really important. I have a really funny story to tell you about hard work, because my very first job, I was 13 years old. I went into a Greek restaurant, and I was pretending to be 18 to apply for a waitressing job.
And you were how old, sorry?
13.
You probably look the same as you do now.
Thank you. I looked like a grown-up. And the owner of this restaurant kind of was this older Greek guy. And he says to me, he did the interview right on the spot. I was so terrified. And he's like, tell me the most important thing about you. And I said, I work hard. That's what I said. That's what I said at 13 years old. He goes, you can't work here unless you work smart. Come back in 2 years when you're ready to work smart. And I was like, so offended.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So working hard is really important. We all work super hard. I know that. We work around the clock at Lensbox. We believe in this. We're passionate. But I think I like working smart, because there's a lot of stuff you shouldn't care about. It's not going to matter. But the important stuff that does matter, you should really put 100% into. And you should know your values. You should know what's 100% and what's something you can just let go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just do this. Luck, I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm a super spiritual person. So I kind of feel like, opportunities that we've had, whatever you want to call that force in your life, has brought incredible things into mine, blessed me abundantly. And so it's really also about your perspective on that. You can be
fine line.
Yeah, you can be sitting. Go ahead.
I think luck is, when you attain success, the luck is actually a calculated risk. And calculated risk comes with the smarts, or work smart. It comes with that intelligence, that intellect. It's not book smart. It could be a combination of life smarts and book smarts, but it comes with, again, your intuition, opportunity, which is the luck component, but then the calculated risk is taken at that stage, which allows you to have success when you have to, and it has to be leveraged through hard work. So I think it kind of all melds into one.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's luck is opportunity when opportunity meets preparation, or something like that. Is that the phrase? I don't know if that's
the proverb. Yeah.
But that's I think essentially, I mean, in a nutshell, what you guys are saying, right? Is something comes your way, are you able to actually capture it and grasp it? And a lot of that comes from your hard work and preparation.
And I think that's a good point, because I like good fortune, or like the luck in that sense. I agree. I understand that. So when you're thinking of opportunity, I think it goes back to what we talked about. It's like, how do you view the world, right? You can be sitting and, I like, since you're being philosophical and existential, I like Viktor Frankl. Like, here's a psychiatrist who was in a concentration camp, and he said, I still see the sunset, and I'm free to enjoy my sunset, and no one can take that from me. Or you can have the most lavish, extraordinary life and still be miserable. You can have done great in your life, made tons of money, be married, lots of wonderful children and grandchildren running around, and really always, live in a hellish mindset. So I think it is how you embrace challenges and disruptions in your life, and opportunities.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So deep.
But well, you know what, the 2020 podcast, these existential questions are the type of questions I want to ask the whole time, but I just save them for the end. It's the idea of the 2020 podcast is looking through life through a different lens, right? And that's what we're doing here. So Pav, anything you want to add to that last hard work versus luck, or we kind of covered that, do you think?
I think we covered it. We did good.
Good awesome. Job, team. All right. Well, one more time, I'd like to remind everyone where they can go for Lensbox. So if you're a consumer, shop lensbox.com. And if you're an ECP, lensboxpro.com. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Any final words of wisdom you guys would like to impart?
Pavan?
He's like,
that's probably the hardest question you've asked me.
He's like, wisdom?
Wisdom? What? Where do we start? Do we have another hour? No. Stay true to yourself, be happy, love one another, and shop Lensbox.
The three pillars of life. Okay. Sanaz, any last thing that you want to say, you would like to share?
I love what he said. Love each other. Stay strong in yourself, look into yourself, your intuition, and don't worry about what people think about you.
Beautiful.
Just go.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys for taking the time. I know we ran over time here. I appreciate you guys sharing all the amazing expertise and insights and experiences that you have. And thank you to everybody who's listening or watching and stuck around for the entire podcast. I appreciate your support and all the great reviews and everything else that you guys have provided. Thank you. If you haven't yet, please make sure you subscribe on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts and leave a review. And let me know how much you love these guys, because of course I know you do, because they're amazing people. Thank you again. Make sure you tune in for the next podcast coming soon. As I mentioned in the intro, we have amazing guests lined up. I'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Awesome.